Hi there, I'm here to demonstrate how to run Doom, or basically any graphical application on DeepSquare. DeepSquare is a decentralized HPC that combines job scheduling and Web3 technologies to achieve the democratization of the cloud. Due to DeepSquare's decentralized nature, it is almost impossible to interact with jobs, and there are no graphical interfaces to help us with it. As clusters are equipped with GPUs and have access to the external network, they are pretty suited for cloud gaming, and it would be a shame not to use them for this reason. One solution is to use remote access software such as KasmVNC. KasmVNC is an open source software for remote desktop control, with a web interface to interact with it. Since this is a web server, we need to forward the web TCP port. There are no open ports, but there is still external traffic. We can use board proxies to forward the traffic to the external network and bypass the firewall. Users can then use the generated URL to access to the server. Now that we know this, let's write the steps of the job. So, we need to run Doom on KasmVNC on DeepSquare. To do that, a job needs resources to be allocated. We allocate one task, 2 CPUs per task, and 4 GB of RAM. The tasks are the number of parallel steps allowed, which will be only one. After allocating the resources, we can write the steps. There will be only one step, which is to launch the VNC server on applications. I'm using the official KasmVNC Doom container image. In the command field, I'm editing the configuration files to remove SSL, since the board proxies are already protected by SSL. Then I can launch the container entry point. Knowing that the port is 6901, I configured my board client to forward to the DeepSquare board proxy. I'm also containerizing the network by using sleep for NetNS network namespace, which permits to avoid port conflict. And with this, we can submit the job. Here's the generated bar URL. Let's open it. You can see that the latency is quite low, but there's no audio, which is kinda sad. There's also no hardware acceleration because KasmVNC does not support NVIDIA proprietary drivers. KasmVNC is actually just great for working without audio, like using VS Code, Jupyter or Blender. But for video games, even if we can change the mouse control to game mode, it kinda sucks. So, as an alternative, we can try to use another remote desktop control software. One such software is called N.eko, which uses WebRTC technology to transmit the video feed. N.eko works the same way as KasmVNC, but has less options to configure the remote desktop session. N.eko is also already containerized, so we could just use the given images to run it. However, hardware-accelerated images still need to be built manually, but I've already done that behind the scenes. The workflow is pretty similar, but we don't need to remove the SSL since it's already not present. Instead, we can just run the container entry point. I also need to map my user to root because the container is using an init system. Besides that, let's submit the job. Here's the generated bar URL, so let's open it. As you can see, it's pretty smooth. But compared to KasmVNC, the latency is a little worse. And I have less options to configure my inputs. I cannot use my mouse for FPS games, so it's not that great. N.eko was actually made with streaming in mind, so we could use N.eko as an online cinema. Well, that is all for this demonstration. We've managed to deploy Doom on DeepSquare and bypass the firewall. However, before ending this video, let me show you how to build a container image with N.eko. To build an image with N.eko, first, you need to clone the N.eko Git repository. Then, you need to build the base image, and if you need an NVIDIA accelerated image, add the NVIDIA prefix. You can then create a directory which is named the name of your application. And then you can add the Docker file. In this Docker file, we can install the dependencies. Here I'm installing Doom. I'm also adding the default configuration files for Doom. Then, we need to configure the init system, which is supervisor D. If you don't know what an init system is, basically it's a piece of software that handles the life cycles of multiple processes. In my supervisor configuration file, I'm launching Doom. If you are using NVIDIA, you have to add bin entry.sh, which enables hardware acceleration. I'm also launching the window manager, which is OpenBox, a very lightweight window manager. The window manager permits to position the window, which is just Doom. In my OpenBox configuration file, I have used the default values. But the most important part is the applications block. In my applications block, I have written a rule which indicates that Doom must be maximized and focused. The window decorations are also removed. Besides that, everything are the default values. So let's go back to the Docker file. We copy the supervisor and OpenBox configuration files inside the container. Then we can build the image by running build NVIDIA Doom. And that's all. If you want to use that image on DeepSquare, you need to make that image publicly accessible by publishing the image to a container image registry, like Docker Hub. And I hope this video helped you create new jobs on DeepSquare. And maybe you can open the doors to cloud gaming on DeepSquare.